They show a lot of respect for the medium and bringing out in lovely hardcover editions.
Yeah.
Is the way, is to show that this is not just disposable literature. This is serious. I mean, did First Second publish American Born Chinese? I think they did.
They might have.
Derek Kirk Kim, and he won a major young adult fiction award for that. Not one for graphic novels, but
okay.
Adult
literature, young adult literature.
Well, and it was up for several, like the National Book Award, something.
So yeah,
but he was up for so many awards and won a few of them for American Born Chinese, which is a combination of fiction and autobiography about growing up Chinese in 70s, 80s America, and the casual racism that he dealt with, and his own image of himself, where he tries to draw himself becoming more and more American as he dreams of being.
Wow.
But then he introduces a character who's so offensively racistly Chinese, who just hangs on his shoulder at all times, as a funny and insightful way of saying, I can pretend all I want that I'm going to be blue-eyed and blonde hair, but this idea is always hanging over my shoulder. And you couldn't do that easily in a book that wasn't a comic, that wasn't a graphic novel.
Does it have a funny spin on it that keeps it entertaining? I mean,
it does.
Why is the graphic novel better for that kind of deeply personal?
Well, the idea of this other character coming in and representing
what
he's trying to get away from,
okay,
and representing himself, and seeing him draw himself becoming more American. He wants to call himself Danny and be an American boy.
Maybe. Yeah.
And just the way he draws himself on purpose as trying to Americanize. But there's this character who comes in with the queue and the pointy broad hat and is always walking like this, just because that's, he said, no matter what I do, this is always what I'm being seen as.
That's really personal. That's deeply autobiographical again.
It is.
For that topic.
And it's not something that would be so easy to sell simply in words.
Yeah.
You would have to explain it more.
To tell or to sell, either one,
Mm-hmm.
right? Well, so it's not just First Second that's turning out these books. Candlewick is doing them for Cynthia and maybe other authors. I'm not sure.
I think so, yeah.
And other publishers are looking.
Scholastic is doing it.
Scholastic has been doing
They're
it.
republishing Jeff Smith's Bone, which is an amazing piece of work. He self-published 70 issues of the comic.
Oh, wow.
And then Scholastic has picked them up and hired. He did them in black and white. He has beautiful inker. It is just beautiful black, pure, hard, no shading black and white. And they hired someone to come in and paint it. And I was thinking that's a terrible idea, but they are beautiful.
Robert Crumb illustrated Genesis or some
book of the
Bible.
have that. He edited nothing. He just
illustrated the Bible.
Illustrated the book
in
of
his
Genesis.
style. Yeah, it's just kind of exciting. Well, now, what will Dave Roman? What do you think he'll be talking about in the workshop?
I'm sure he'll be talking about breaking in, how he broke in, about his process, about just about the flexibility of the format. He's written X-Men comics actually as well.
Okay, cool.
But not mainstream ones. He did a kind of romance comic version called X-Men Misfits, and it has a very Japanese look. And he did it with his wife and another artist.
Again, on that
and I saw them. I met him at Small Press Expo, and I saw those books, and I said, "Are those just independently published, kind of, fan fiction style things?" Oh no, I said Marvel came to us
to do those the idea of the misfit seems to be this running theme for these YA graphic novels.
That's kind of the joy of the superhero, and I think that's why it's such a long-running popular thing, is that here's someone who's a bit of a misfit, and don't we all feel that way? So, there's a reason for the popularity, and I think comics tend to draw the misfits because the people that are writing and drawing them were often the people that were misfits themselves, and maybe still are.
And then they become these blockbuster summer movies and franchises that are like industries unto themselves.
Yeah, I think comics have always been a bit of an outsider art form. They were very heavily dominated by Jewish creators in the 50s. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, both Jewish. basically, they were kind of ghettoized from other kinds of work. It wasn't, there's no conspiracy or anything of Jewish people taking over comics. It's just, it was one of the industries where they could easily get work when they weren't getting advertising work and such.
I believe the early Classics Illustrated Comics was an idea of a Jewish publisher in New York who was probably felt an outsider himself and thought it was a good idea to bring classical literature into kid format at the same time that Superman comics were out there.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that it used to be those Classics Illustrated.
No, I grew up on those. That's where I got my classics education.
Yeah,
reading those
that's
things.
how I read The Three Musketeers.
And me too, and many others. And all the Dickens novels, we're all three.
And those can be done so well. I mean, it
They were
draws you in. If you're a reluctant
you in.
reader, it'll bring you
You're a
in.
boy.
I can only think of a few comic books or graphic novels, I should say, that a reluctant reader would be running for the hills from, and none for children that I can think of.
And it's so fun that Cynthia grew up like a boy reading comic books, and she's
Well,
not
that's
known.
that's the thing, is that's changed so much. Is what you're saying. When she was reading them, it was not a girl thing to do.
And now girls are writing and creating comics all over the place.
They are. I mean, you go to Barnes and Noble, all the graphic novels, especially the Japanese ones, have a section to themselves, and there's always, if school's out, there are teenage girls sitting in the aisle, hunched over these things, just gathered around there. And that's not something you were seeing in bookstores, and you don't even see boys doing it with comics these days, younger boys. But, they are drawn to things like the Captain Underpants, which is a kind of hybrid of comic and children's book.
Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Diary of a Wimpy Kid is very much a combination where there are comics mixed in with the text, but at all times the pictures are important, and the pictures are telling part of the story.
That's a great point.
And again, this goes to children's books as well. One of our favorites here is the Mrs. LaRue books by I can't think of his name. Mark. He also anyway.
Okay.
He does these wonderful books where the dog writes letters home about his adventures. And in color...
Is it one of Kyle's favorite books?
Yeah, when Riley loves them.
I mean, Riley.
Poor Riley, she's out cold. But, he'll do spreads which are in black and white and color. And the black and white is the tale of woe that Ike LaRue is telling, and the color is the what's actually happening to him. And you can't do that just by writing. It needs the pictures. So there's one where he claims he's been picked up by the police and he's locked up in a cell and being fed gruel, and there's an image of this in black and white of him in the striped prison outfit, and he's got his little spoon and his horrible thing of food, and then the color is him kind of leaned back at the desk eating a donut and playing cards with the police. And they're just treating him like a king. Man, it's like, we like this doggy. So it's not quite a graphic novel, it's more of a picture book, but again, it's a kind of picture book that wasn't being done before comics started getting popular. There's a real elegance to the language of the pictures mixing with the words, and people were doing that, but letting the pictures carry that much of the story was much less common. I think Morris Sendak got so much trouble getting Where the Wild Things Are done just because there are so few words.
Really? Yeah.
And also it seemed like an odd subject matter, but so he...
It's a comic book, isn't it?
It's in a way, it's a comic book, yeah.
Uh-huh. And picture books are closer to a comic book than most other literary forms.
Well, and he grew up a huge comic book fan and a huge animation fan. Mickey Mouse was always a deep love of his, and actually, In the Night Kitchen is a comic book.
Yes.
It is a graphic novel.
Yeah, with paying lots of homage to memes and icons of our culture.
Right, and again, how could you have characters that were homages to Oliver Hardy as the big chef, the big fat chef?
Yeah.
In a book where you had to say, you would have to write the line, he looked like Oliver Hardy.
Yeah, what a snoozer. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you got the visual meme that everybody will respond to.
Right.
Well, so what do you think Callista Brill will be focusing on at the workshop?
I'm hoping that she will focus mostly on how people can approach a publisher.
Okay.
about what publishers are looking for.
Uh-huh.
Of course, I think that's always something people want to know is what are publishers looking for.
Yeah.
I mean, she can't speak for other houses, but giving an idea of what First Second is looking for I would hope give people the impetus to look at what other houses that publish graphic novels are looking for, and they are out there.
We'll assume that she'll address that from the for writers as well as maybe illustrators with portfolios. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, they work with writers and illustrators who are separate people. They don't just go with people that sit like I do and write and draw at the same.
Although they're looking for that as well.
They are,
and there are plenty of serious people.
Dave Roman does his on her own. His wife Raina Tegelmeier does hers on her own. I think most of the really famous ones tend to be a single writer, except we mentioned Neil Gaiman, who is only a writer.
Yeah.
The man cannot draw his way out of a paper bag, and he'll admit it, but he writes beautifully for the medium.
And thinks visually.
He does think very visually.